All right, we're back. And we are COMP305, that's Game Programming 1 with Unity at Centennial. And we're week 11, lesson 11, part 3. We just finished doing a little quiz, silly quiz of 11 questions, right? For most of you, it's pretty easy. A couple of administrative things to note. Next week, Friday, I'm expecting you to have your concept for your final project ready and done, right? Remember that it's due the first level of your project, right? And your associated documentation is due by next week, Friday night, midnight, right? So please, on the days we meet next week, there will not be any kind of new lessons. This is kind of the last teaching lesson of the semester, right? We're going to be talking about the stuff in class that we'll be doing is going to be simply on your work, as a workshop time frame for you guys to get together and work on your final project. And then so next week, what I want to do on Monday when we get together, right? I'd like to kind of look at your concept, and so I can give you the okay, kind of say something like, hey, you're going in the right direction. And you can hand in your final draft or your final for Friday, right? But I want to look at what you're talking about. Let's hear your concept, pitch it to me on Monday. I'm going to go around, so please don't skip Monday. It's an important class, right? When we come in and we talk about your final concept. I can look at the stuff you're thinking about doing, and we can go over what you're, if it's feasible or not. If I have to rein you in, or if I have to push you forward to get you to do more, so that you can align with the requirements. Okay. So that's really what Monday is all about. So please come in and do that with your partner. If you don't have a partner and you're looking for one, there's people that still don't have partners of their own. So please, it's not difficult to find a partner if you want one. The challenge is finding the right partner, right? Because you want to find somebody who to work with that has is kind of like mind and so on, and you want to get things done. So it's not too late to set up with somebody else. I don't recommend you work on your own. That would be more challenging. However, I know some people work better alone because of time constraints, other requirements outside of this class, all that kind of stuff. So that's okay. You can certainly do that. And that's why in the project it says you could work alone or with another person. Okay. So again, please, Monday is a very important class. Please come in, show me your stuff, and all that kind of stuff. So, and Monday and Tuesday, we're going to do workshops, right? So I'll be sitting there with you and I'll go around and I'll take a look at what you've got, and it'll give you a chance to start working on your project here, some time back to you, these over the next, 4 hours next week, plus 4 hours on week 13. And then you'll have your final presentation on week 14, right? But each time, what I want to do every week we get together, this is the requirement, is I'll come in, I want to look at your work, right? So I'll give you more critique. I'll look at your code. We'll try and figure out any kind of problems with your code, and I'll try and help you diagnose it and troubleshoot it with you, right, if there's a problem. Or even with some of the assets that you've got, there's some other approaches we could use to get these things done. So it's more of like me with you guys one-on-one as opposed to me with you guys as a big class. If I have to show you guys a concept, let's say if everyone's asking for the same thing that somehow we didn't cover, or everyone's having the same problem, that's the only way that I'll kind of put something up on YouTube, a little tutorial. But that's generated from you guys. If you want something that I haven't covered, and you want to do something that you don't know how to do, and you want me to look into it and do it, we can certainly do that. It's almost like additional topics that we can cover. But I won't. There's nothing planned, is what I'm saying, for next week, the week after, in terms of our stuff. There's no more testing at this point, so the quiz is done. You're not going to have a final exam. There is no final exam in this course. The only thing that there's going to be is the final project, which is worth, with everything, 40% of your final mark, right? So one part of it's due next week. There's another part of it that's due week 14, plus there's another part of it that's due as a presentation. The question I got last night from the group is, how do I do that screencast, Tom? What do you do? Well, I'm doing it right now. I'm screencasting right now. I'm talking and screencasting. Please have a PowerPoint, because I asked you, or some kind of slide deck that's part of your final presentation. Look at the requirements in your rubric for this one, right? So don't just do your screencast by just talking to it. Have a few PowerPoint slides, to talk about your final project, and show me what you're finally developing. All right. Again, it would be very bad if you skip this process. It's going to weigh heavy on your final grade and so on. So please don't do that. In terms of extensions, there's really not a lot of room for it anymore. So you've got as many extensions as you can get. And next week and the week after, I'll finally have a chance to catch up with the marking, because I'm not going to be developing new stuff to show you, right? Unless you, of course, ask me to, right? But you know, that's the kind of stuff we're going to be doing next week. So expect your marks to come through in a big way over the next couple of weeks, because I'll have time to do it with you guys, right? And I might even sit down with you guys if you're here physically and mark your stuff with you, show you all your stuff step by step. And if I have a chance for some of you, I might be able to do that, right? So that way we can talk more one-on-one feedback, and so you understand where I'm coming from with marks. Some people are worried about marks. They're like, hey, Tom, you have marked this? Yes, I haven't. But the thing is, if you look at the rubric, right? The rubrics, every assignment has very specific places where I give your marks, especially the first three. They're all identical, pretty much, right? You get, you know, there's one for score, there's one for this. So the answer is this. If you say, well, I don't know how I'm doing. Well, if you didn't hand some kind of requirement in, something is missed from one of your assignments, you're going to get 0 from it, like that piece. So if I have 4 pieces and I only do 3 pieces, I'm not going to get marked for the 4th piece, right? Because it's not there. Now, it's different if you hand it in, but it's not so good. This is where we get into the gray area, right? So I'm just telling you how I do it. You can mark yourself, really, at the end of the day. If you kind of got it done, right? So it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. That's like a 50% thing, right? Kind of, right? So it's like a 0.5 out of 1. If there was 1 mark assigned to whatever that task is, it would be kind of like a 0.5, right? And if it was, you know, it was mostly done, but not quite completed, that's more like a 0.75 point. Then there's a little bit of, like, you know, gray area in terms of how I do that, in terms of I look at it and go, oh, okay, that could have been a little better, or, you know, that's not as smooth that it could have been done, or, you know, that wasn't completed, or that glitches out, or there's an error here. You know, those kind of things would reduce it from 100%. But more or less, you're talking about, is it done or not? Number 1, 0 or 1. And then if it's done, how well is it done? Is it done, you know, half as well? Is it partly done? So like mostly it's not done. That's like a 1/4 point, right? If it's mostly done but not quite 100%, that's like 75% of a point, 0.75, right? And so that's my gradient. I don't go very much more gradient than that. Even that's, you know, very, very granular, right? So, and the reason for that is because when I look at it, I want to be this is an intro course, right? This is not a course that I'm gonna go to you and try and fail you. That's not my scope here. So if you've handed in your stuff, you're gonna get marked from it. If you handed in 0, like nothing, from an assignment 1, 2, or 3, I can't mark you on that. I can't give you marks for nothing, right? So please, if you haven't handed it in, it's coming. I'm gonna start marking everything. And if you haven't done that, then you're gonna get 0, right? That's gonna happen. The other thing is, what about lates and all that kind of stuff, right? What about if you're really late? Like if you've gone out, if you haven't talked to me about it, and I can see the submission timelines, right? So if your time is off, and I'm talking about like really, really late, we haven't talked about it or something like that, or if I haven't given you leeway, if I said, guys, it's okay, right? One of those, then, you know, if it's really way out of whack, a good example of that would be the exam, right? If you're not here for the exam, you missed the exam, somehow I look at the exam and it's 5 days late, it's a problem, right? So we haven't talked about it. How did you do your exam 5 days late, right? Or if you updated it 5 days later, right? So I have your original, your submission, but somehow 5 days later you got an update on the exam, right? That's not going to be acceptable either. I won't look at that, right? So these are normal things, but I'm just outlining it for you so you understand what I do and how I work, right? So the answer for people who don't know how they're doing is, how do you think you're doing? If you've submitted everything and you've done it pretty well, you're going to get a pretty good mark, right? If you haven't submitted anything, or if you haven't tried as hard, or if you didn't meet the requirements, then you're not going to, do so well, right? And if you've met all the requirements plus you added additional features, you're going to do really well. Like, for example, people who've done bonus features and so on. And the way I treat bonuses are, they add on to the stuff that you've done, right? So now this is the bad thing. I still give you bonuses even though you haven't done your requirements. That's the reality, right? I mean, so if you've done requirement A, B, and you didn't do C, but you gave me some bonus material, then I kind of balance it off, right? That's what I kind of do. But sometimes the bonus material won't be equivalent to your stuff that you missed. So if there's like three things, A, B, C, and each of them are weighted equally, right? So 32% each, and you do this bonus material, but you didn't do the third one, that's like, maybe I'll give you 10% for the bonus material, but you've lost 33%, so you've still down 22%. I mean, it's not equivalent, put it that way. It's not like the bonus material isn't going to make up for the stuff you didn't do, right? So be aware of that. unless I specifically put marks to it. Like I said, 4 marks to do this and 5 marks to do that, which normally I don't do. I don't really do it that way. And how about bonus material we haven't talked about? Like you went way above and beyond, right? Like, you went crazy with stuff. I'm going to give you as many marks as I can. For every different thing you add, I'm going to say, okay, you add this, mark for this, mark for this, mark for this, mark for this. And sometimes you might get like, 120% on your assignment, right? But that's okay because you're going to lose marks somewhere else, right? So, and at the end of the day, I can't give you more than 100% on the course, right? So you're going to be clamped at that point, right? If you're one of those people, and that's okay, right? I'm happy. That's 100% effort for me, right? So I'm going to get. I don't mind giving hundreds, right? If you've gone above and beyond. So I just wanted to talk about that because I know some people's minds. But again, if you've attended class and you put your effort in, you're going to be okay, right? If you haven't attended class and you haven't submitted your assignments and there's still pieces that are missing, I can't do anything about those pieces, right? If I don't have anything, I can't mark it. That's the bottom line. That's pretty simple. And and that's how when I talk to my fellow professors, some people are more strict than others, right? In terms of timelines and everything else. But at the end of the day, if you don't hand something in, you still get 0 for that. And I'm the same as the other people like that, right? If I don't get it, I can't give you marks for something that's not there. The other thing I can't give you marks for is you think you handed it in, right? But I have nothing in your submission. So please check things like, is your GitHub link working? Do you have can I unzip the file? And over the next couple of weeks, I'll know too, because I'm going to look at it. I can't, I'll say, Jonathan, if it was Jonathan's problem, Jonathan, you know what? I can't unzip this bloody file of yours for assignment number 2, right? How come, right? And then Jonathan will say, oh, damn, okay. And then he'll, try and, correct it. And then I'll be able to download and look at Jonathan's file, and it'd be okay afterwards, right? But if I don't get a response from you, or I can't access your information, somehow your links are broken or something, there's nothing much I can do there. At the end of the day, I mean, I can only try so hard, and if I don't have them, I wouldn't have had them before either, right? So I'll put the same effort in. So please make sure your links are working, everything is submitted properly, all that kind of stuff, and please don't give me stuff back. Like one of the questions I had was for this one, for the final was like, well, is it okay if I give you my level 3 or my assignment 3? Oh, okay, that's your assignment 3. That's not what the submission requirements are for this concept that's coming up next Friday. That's not. You're not going to meet with that, right? You need to give me your assignment 3 modified to meet your new project, right? Your new project is going to be whatever this new project is going to be, right? Maybe it's going to use essences or pieces, your assets from your assignment 3. Maybe your level design, that kind of thing. Maybe some scripting. But I don't want your assignment 3 again to get marks for your concept. That's not going to cut it, guys. It's got to be, hey, this is my concept. Here's the goal of our new project we're making, right? And this is we took from my assignment 3, my partner and I, and then we've developed this new level from our assignment 3, right? More or less based on the level you made, right? With some minor changes. And here's our concept, here's our external document, and this is what we're going to develop at the end, right? And please don't do this. Don't say, well, you know what? Jonathan and I are working together on the project, and then Jonathan has a level, and I have a level, and we smash them together to make like the first and second levels. No, sorry, that's not going to happen, right? So please don't do that. You might get essences of the other person's first level into the second level that you guys are making together, like some assets, some scripting, but it can't be the other person's second level. It can't be the 2 people's assignment 3 smashed together to give me, the first and second level of your final project. That just doesn't cut it, guys. Sorry, right? And the other thing is, don't try and give me, if you're working alone, assignment 1, 2, and 3, as your package for your final project. Well, you know what? Assignment 1, that's my first level. Assignment 2, that's my second level. Assignment 3, that's my third level. And here you go, right? And I wrapped it around this other scene as a menu to kind of go between one level and the other. Please don't do that. That would be a big fail. You wouldn't get any marks for that. If I get the stuff back, if you're regurgitating the material back to me, or giving me my material, that's even worse, my material back at me. Hey, Tom, here's your maze. It's your maze, but we're going to use it for assignment 2. No, or part of my level 2. Please don't do that. And don't steal assets from the internet and that kind of stuff, like, in terms of, here's my project. I bought the whole project from the asset store. It's a completed project. I paid $50 for it, and it has your 3 levels, and it meets your requirements. Is that okay? No, it's not okay to buy a project. This is your project. This is the one that you're going to make. right? So, and there's specific requirements that have to be met. And it's easy to see. If I see an asset that doesn't, that you've never done any kind of modeling, but somehow you're producing the Hulk, and he's smashing through buildings and throwing stuff, and it's a whole AAA game. No, I'm gonna know it's not yours. And at the end of the day, if it's good enough for the PS4 or the Xbox or the Wii, it's probably not your stuff over these next 4 weeks. It's just impossible, right? So. Unless I've seen that's the progression that I've seen in your work, and most likely for the things I've seen so far, I've never seen that, right? So, just a little bit about assignment 3. So, or final, yes.
So, you use actual assets individually, or do you make the assets?
So you're asking us if you can make the assets individually, like as in, what do you mean, like get them from the asset store individually? Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
yeah, you can still use the asset store. I'm just talking about don't download a whole project from the asset store, because you can do that, right? How about scripting? Someone asked me the other day, from the first class, they said, well, Tom, you said in your assignment details that only 10% of the scripts are allowed. Yes, it's true. Unless I approve it, right? So if you're going to use a script from the asset store because you want to do something quick, and guys, let's face it, we only have, we got some quick and dirty stuff in this course. Like, you're going to get some scripting from whatever to make it work with your particular assets. It takes a little bit of adaptation. You're taking a script and adapt it to your purposes. That's okay. But I still want you to note that you got it from the asset store. Like, I got the script from the asset store. It makes my prefab do blah, whatever it does, right? That's okay. Please mention where you got it from. Don't just hand it in and this is my script. I wrote it. And no, that's not good. If it's a standard character controller you're using, which is something that sometimes it happens, right? Come on in. If you're using a standard, there's a quiz, right, Jason? Quiz.
Yeah.
All right. Running late today. Okay, so if you're downloading and installing standard assets, right, and you want to use a standard character controller, you should still notice to mention in your documentation. Use the standard character controller in the documentation, right? Again, it's not about making your own assets or about, even writing all your own scripts. It's taking what you've got, modifying the stuff, and adapting it to create a game, right? So you understand the concepts behind everything and to meet my criteria. So I tell you, I want you to hit these targets, 1, 2, 3, 4, these targets. I want you to have some kind of score. I want you to have obstacles. I want you to have pickups. I want you to all the regular things I talked about. If you can hit all those targets by modifying scripts or whatever that come into you, and you create your own game with assets you download or you modify in Blender, I'm okay with that. But please mention when you got them from. So in your documentation where it says, here's my asset matrix on the bottom, it asks you for that, right? Put in, I got these assets from the asset store. I got this assets from CG Textures. I got this asset from random Googling, whatever. I got these assets. They're not mine, but I'm using them, Tom. And if you really question it, if you're like, wow, this is really a lot of script here that I got from somebody else, and it kind of covers most of my game. What do I do? I kind of feel guilty. If you feel guilty, something is wrong. That means you got too much stuff, right? So talk to me about it. Say, Tom, you know what? I don't know. It's a lot of script. What are you thinking? I'm doing it for this. Okay. Or, oh, that may be too much. Maybe you want to take the essence of the script and make your own. I might tell you that. So talk to me about it, right? Don't be a stranger. Ask me the questions, and if it's okay, I'll tell you it's okay. At the end of the day, the answer is communicate. If you don't communicate with me, I don't know how to answer that question, right? So that's why I'm talking about this stuff here, in the video and everything else. Any other questions around assignments? Yes.
Yeah. So as far as the presentation goes, like how does it work if you're working with other sections?
Okay, it's no problem. So what you do is one of you can present on one day or the other day, or if they want to come into your section, if you want to come into go into their section for that day, you can present. I'm going to try and get around to all the presentations. That's why I've asked every one of you to produce a screencast, right? Every one of the presentations requires a screencast where you do stuff on YouTube, Vimeo, whatever. And you can do that with some screencasting software like I'm using right now. I'm using Hangouts on Air, and it's free, right? There's nothing too crazy about it. Record your stuff. So worst case, if I don't get around to you, I'm gonna look at it by myself, right? But it should still assume that you're gonna put on that presentation in front of the class, right? It's good practice for you anyway. It's 5 minutes that you're gonna do. If you do your presentation, you record it, it's a backup. Can't make it, something happened, not quite finished, you know, those are the good reasons why we can't get those presentations done. And it's perfectly acceptable, one or the other, right? I'd like to see more people here on week 14, right? So I can, let's take a look at your awesome game. I'd like to do that with you, right? But that may not be possible in terms of time frame because we only have 2 hours per class, right? And also, I'd like to get in some Counter-Strike, you know, on the last day, right? So that would be nice, right? So because of those reasons, and you know, those are real important reasons too, right? Counter-Strike. So we can't, you know, so we can't exactly, you know, we may not be able to present everybody. So please screencast your stuff, is what I'm saying, right? To make it fun during that last week, because that last week is going to be like the week before Christmas, right? If you think about it, right? So I want to kind of go out with a bit of a bang and do a little bit of Counter-Strike on the last day, right? So like the day like today would have been a Counter-Strike day. And I know people aren't going to show up because people don't want to do that kind of stuff, but that's okay, right? Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Anyone else have any kind of questions around final project? Because, so again, next, just to revamp, next week, please come in with your concepts. Please don't miss it. This is important. I can't mark your attendance for this one, but I can tell you how important it is for you to come in and talk to me about your stuff so we don't have a miscommunication for your final project, which is 40% of your final mark all together. Presentation, 2 different pieces, all this other stuff. It's just, there's too many good reasons. There's 40% of the reasons for you to come in, right? Okay, let's get to this piece now, a little bit. I want to start off a new, a short project here that I'm going to call my enemy demo for section 2. I'm also going to kick off a, when I kick this project off here, I'm also going to make a GitHub repo, which we'll do in a second. And what we'll do is we'll make a new repo, enemy demo for section 2, and I'll kind of use this one as a place where you can hold some files and so on. So again, how do we do that? And some of the questions that I had were, how do I combine things in with on GitHub? How do I work with GitHub on this kind of stuff? Well, first thing is you have to kind of initialize a repository. So I'm going to kind of go to CD enemy demo section 2. Same thing would be in the PC. And then I'll say git init, and then git add dot to add everything, and then git commit -m for message, initial commit. I've shown you this, guys, a bunch of times now, so you guys should see the same patterns. I'm not doing anything differently. And then I'm going to take this remote script here, which is just adding a remote to the terminal, and enter. That adds the remote on GitHub. Remember, there's 2 parts of the repository. One that's local to your system, your local repo, and then the cloud repo, right? And all you're doing is linking one to the other, right? And I'm going to git push -u for unconditional origin master. And what that's going to do is going to push all my files up to GitHub. And right now it's very small. If I refresh, then I get this, right? So some small project. Well, we need to add some stuff here because our project requires a little bit of structure. So even this little project we're doing right now requires structure. And I'm going to go into my FPS layout. That's my standard FPS layout that I've been using. And again, you can set up yours to look similar to mine. In my assets, I need to create some standard things here. And I'm going to make a prefabs folder. I'm going to make a models folder for us. Why not? We may have some models in there. A materials folder. And I'm also going to put in a textures folder. So all the regular stuff. And of course, a couple more, the scenes folder with an underscore. So it's at the top. Also, our scripts folder. These are all things you should add in immediately when you make your project. And we're going to add in some standard materials, but we're going to add them in the underscore standard assets folder, or imported assets, you can call them, whatever, so they go at the top as well. So they swim at the top, so that way I don't have to deal with them down here. This is all my stuff. I want the standard assets or whatever to be swimming somewhere else, right? So what are these standard assets things that I'm talking about to speed up our production for today, right? I'm going to go into my assets. I'm going to go into import package, right? I'm going to go into prototyping. So I've clicked on prototyping this time around. And it's going to ask me to import this stuff. It also gives me my cross-platform input and so on, and a bunch of other things. I'm going to say import. And standard assets, right? Let me also import from my standard assets my characters, right? Because I need that too. In yesterday's class, I kind of put it one at a time. I'll just put them all in for now, just to make sure that we have all of them, because I'm going to demonstrate a couple of them, right? We haven't talked about. All right, we have everything to play with. Now I want to rename my standard assets again into imported assets. So I'll kind of go in here and change the name of this to imported assets. And all I'm trying to do here is separate them. Imported assets. I'm trying to separate them so that there are, they don't appear in the same location. They're way at the top, so I don't have to touch them anymore. I'm going to go there frequently, but I want my assets, my stuff, to be separate from them. Okay. So what's in this imported assets folder now? I've got characters, my cross-platform input. I got my editor, which I don't want to touch. Physics materials, prototyping, and utility. So let's go to prototyping. So I'm going to double-click in there, and let's go to prefabs. And you're going to notice there's a set of prefabs that come with our prototypes. Some examples of that are a block prefab, a cube prefab, different sizes, floors, right, of different sizes, different kinds of joins, right, houses, pillars, steps, all kinds of stuff. So we want to get some of this stuff because we want to be able to use this as in terms of our prototype. So we make a level this way as well. So let's add in a floor. In my floor prototype, I'm going to add in a 64 by 1 by 64. I'm going to pull that into the scene there. And you can see in the scene it's quite large. My floor prototype. It comes with a couple things. It comes with a box collider. It comes with a mesh renderer. It comes with a bit of a color, right? All ready for you to use, to test out, right? Nice and easy, nice and simple. All right, that's cool. Let's bring in a character. We're going to bring in a couple of them, and I'll show you what to do. First, let's talk about a character we haven't seen ever, which is our third-person character, right? Let's use that guy. Let's go to prefabs and bring in this third-person controller. Bring him in, right? And let's make sure he's zeroed out. Right now, he's in a weird position. Let's zero him out. So reset him, and I'm going to zoom in on him with the F to select him. And this is our guy. His name is Ethan, right? I don't know if you met Ethan before. Hi, Ethan. And this is our class. And this guy has a capsule collider, as you can tell, which is kind of interesting, right? Let's pull it across here so you can see this guy. Notice that our camera is way back here. So I see Ethan, but he's way far away, right? Because our camera is kind of off to the side, right? Show you what I'm talking about here, right? Our camera is way over here, right? What I want to do at least is bring it way closer so I can see what Ethan's doing, right? Otherwise, because there's no camera attached to Ethan's head right now. Ethan is a third-person character, right? I'd have to set up the camera to, be behind him or something like that. From that perspective, if I want to with the script, that's the best way to do it. Please don't try and attach the camera. We'll try that too, really quickly. But if you attach the camera, bad things will happen to you, right? So let's see what happens with Ethan. All right, so we got a character. I can walk around, right? I can turn, just like any kind of third-person character can do, right? Notice how I can turn around and walk in different directions, right? No matter why I turn or I walk, he's got his walk cycle, and all this thing is a rig, right? This is pre-rigged and rigged up for you to move with. It's got, if you notice, some idle animation in here to make him, even in idle form, he moves around, right? That's all been preset up for you, right? And you could certainly use this if you wanted to make a kind of a platformer where he jumps, right? You can do that, right? One thing you can't do, you can crouch too, look, see, crouch, jump, right? He does all that kind of stuff, no problem. And you can limit him. If you want to, you can clamp his movement so you can't move. If you were going to make a 3D version of a platformer, you could use a guy like this. Problem. How do I move the camera around with Ethan? How do I do that? Well, I could partner the camera or parent the camera to Ethan. So I can go to my third person and put this camera inside of the third person controller. This is kind of some weird mixed results, right? Let me show you what I'm talking about. So it runs, it moves this way. When he turns, the whole world turns with us, right? Because whatever he's looking, the world turns with us. So this kind of has mixed results. The camera will follow Ethan, right? Even if he jumps. So as he jumps, right? This can work if you do it this way. Now, if so, you can actually make it so that he actually is with us, right? But look, notice how I spin around as much as I want to, because Ethan's turning and my camera is turning with him. It's kind of a weird effect. Please be careful about this. One thing I can never do is see Ethan's face. If I've got the camera in this position, parented to him. Why? I maintain a position behind Ethan all the time with my camera, because that's the way my camera is laid out. If I want my camera to not do that, I've got to set it up in a different way. I've got to set up a script that basically is not parented to Ethan, right, my camera, but what it'll do is it'll keep looking at Ethan's position. That's a different thing, right, than for me to spin around with Ethan like I'm doing now. The same goes with some other assets. Let's look at some other assets here just to kind of talk about the other assets that you can get with your prototype, all right, the prototype package. One of the other assets you get alongside with Ethan as a third-person character is some other models, right? So let's go and grab some other materials in our prototyping package. So we're going to go to prefabs, and let's get a ramp or some kind of stairs, right? So notice there's steps. There we go, some steps, right? And maybe we can add in some other stuff in there. By the way, you can play with these things. So if I press play, as I climb the stairs now, right, you can see how there's issues, right? He's trying, right, but the character controller is not perfect. Notice how we're on top of the stairs and how they're flipping around, right? Because our camera is just like way on top of this thing, right? And notice how we're inside the stairs, and the stairs are culled because our camera is physically inside the stairs. That's bad too, right? That looks weird for us. We walk across. So there's some inherent issues, and that's why we didn't do third person. It's way more difficult to do third person than first person. First person is like easy, like you saw. We have a collider, we can't go through objects. Third person, it presents additional complexities, right? Which we don't have time to handle in this course, too much. However, where we can use third person is if we want to make it so that the third person is an AI coming after us, that kind of thing, right? So there's some complexities about that too, but let's try that. So let's get rid of our third person controller. Let's add in also, notice our main camera just disappeared too. We have to put that kind of back in, right? If I undo that, we'll move my main camera out for a second. Otherwise, we won't see our camera anymore. Let's get rid of this guy for a second. If I want to add in another type of controller, let's say, remember in my characters, I also have a roller ball, right? The roller ball prefab. Roller ball is actually a character. Again, I got to be careful not to parent the camera to the roller ball, right? First of all, let's reset the roller ball's position so that it's in view of the camera. We'll kind of push this out, move the roller ball up, and we'll kind of push it up there. And let's play it, see what happens. So, okay, now I have a roller ball. And now I can roll the ball, right, in my view of my camera, right? And let's say I want to go up the stairs. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can't. And if you notice, it's got a lot of control issues when it comes to that kind of stuff. Here's the other problem: if it goes behind the stairs, I can't see it, right? And if you notice, I'm applying force to the camera, a force to the character controller. So it's going to move whether I use my fingers to guide it or not, right? And eventually I could lose it, like I don't know where it is. So that's a problem. That's interesting stuff. Now, what if I parent my camera to my rollerball? What do you think is going to happen? Anybody? Yeah. That's a problem, ain't it? Right? Let's try this out. So first, let's see what happens when I do this. Well, now I'm underground, right? Why? Because my rollerball fell to the ground and my camera was below my rollerball. It's going to take the same, kind of proportions, right? So I'd have to move my camera physically up, right? So at least so we can see the rollerball on the same level, right? Let's try this now. So I kind of go down here like this, boom, and now I roll with the camera, right? Right. Notice how it's really weird. Like I can't really move my ball anymore. I can only roll this way or that way. How come? Even if I want to, like in terms of rolling, it's really weird how the camera rolls. Same thing with this way. It looks like I'm just going back and forth, but actually what I'm doing is I'm moving across the screen, and I'm going to put myself so I'm completely unbalanced. It's going to make you crazy, right? Makes me crazy looking at it. So that's not doable. Again, you need a script so it points at the rollerball but doesn't rotate with the rollerball, because a parent object, a child object of the parent, will actually perform all of its rotations and everything with it. So this isn't really a solution for me to parent directly with the camera with my object in 3D. Makes me crazy, right? So that ain't it. Let's get rid of this rollerball idea. I'm going to show you that really quickly. But let's add in the first-person character that we're used to, the first-person controller. I'm going to go back into the first-person controller, and the prefabs, and here's this FPS controller type. And now we have two cameras. Let's get rid of the main camera because we don't need it anymore, right? And in my first-person controller, I'm going to reset that guy to the middle. There he is, and bring him up above the screen so he's not buried. Let's scroll back a little bit. Now we've got our stuff that we've normally seen before, right? So if I press play, then you can see how I've got the same look and feel. Be careful not to pair. People have this idea of pairing the third-person controller to the first-person controller. What would happen there? Bad things would happen, all right? It wouldn't work like you think it's going to work. Let's show you that one. So here's my first-person controller, and there's my third-person controller. Here's my prefab. And I bring in the third-person controller and I marry him to the first-person controller like this. And I reset this guy so they're in the same position. And I move up this, let's just focus in on him there. Here's Ethan again, right? And I want to focus on him to move him. So I'll move him a little bit forward. And he's in front of the camera now. So if I click on my camera, I can see him. Let's move my camera, or let's move Ethan down a little bit. Right, there it is. And if I play, I see this, right? Ethan turns when I turn, right? This is bad, but watch what happens. So he runs way faster than I do. And then if I come back, he can't come back with me. In fact, he's stuck. But now he's already running over there. And if I keep doing that, what if I go over here? Whoa, oh, yeah, right? I'm gonna go there, but if I want to put him up here again, can I do this? Can I come back and put him up and look around? And no, I can't, right? Just be careful, because these are the kind of things you think are nice to do, but they're not really doable without script. Scripts are the way we're gonna do this. We can accomplish these things by distance and everything else from the camera and make them turn and everything according to our scripts, okay? Not our with our third-person controller. That would be bad. Let's get rid of this guy. All right, so how do we make it so that an AI, a third-person controller that's an AI, can come into play? Well, this is kind of interesting. This is one solution, but you're going to have to replace Ethan with something else. Please don't use Ethan in your scene, like as your final character. That would be bad, right? First of all, he's got no texturing whatsoever. I mean, he's okay and everything else, but let's take a look at this AI third-person controller. So put him in our scene. There's my AI, right? And now there's some pieces of him that need to be filled out when you have an AI third-person controller like this. One thing to note is you have something called a nav mesh agent. Oh, A nav mesh, right? What is a nav mesh? Well, I don't have a nav mesh here in my game. A nav mesh is a navigational path that my my enemy AI will take, almost like a walking path. And I can set up a place where he's going to go, a direction or a destination. First of all, we have some work to do in order for us to set this up. One is we want to set up our nav mesh here on our plane, this plane somehow. Right? How do I do that? And what is a nav mesh? You can see it. Well, one is if I click on my plane, that's got to be active. Nav mesh. Okay, it's a little bit of an advanced topic, but I was asked to do it yesterday. Okay, on the right where it says static, this is the first time we're going to use our static property up here. Under static, notice that it says nothing. We want to change this to navigation static. Okay. Also, our stairs, I'm going to target those too, and click on those to make them navigation static. Okay. There we go, navigation static. Now we're going to click on the bottom of our plane again. And we need to access the navigation window in order for us to add a nav mesh. So we're going to go to Window, and we're going to go down to where it says Navigation. It's going to set up another window. I've just plopped it here next to the inspector. Notice how in the navigation, let's look at navigation for a second. Don't worry about this piece. In our object, there's 3 little buttons here. Object, Bake, and Areas, right? In Object, it looks at the scene filter and filters everything from only the mesh renderers in the scene, for example, our steps and our floor, the terrain, if we have any, and so on. Okay. If I click on mesh renderers, right, notice on the bottom, when I click on my plane here, right, on my plane, I'm clicking on my plane, the navigational area says walkable, right? Walkable means, by default, that you can walk there, right? There's also not walkable or jump. Let's use walkable, and you can add your own. Let's use walkable for now. So walkable means I can get here. Here, let's say on the stairs, this guy can't climb stairs. He's a zombie, right? Or he's a zombie that's really dumb, right? So he's not going to walk on the stairs. Not walkable, right? Okay, cool. So I arrange this thing in my first button here, Object. Now let's go to Areas. We'll go back to Bake in a second. Here are the areas. You can set up different areas. Take a look at what the different costs are. So right now, walkable is a cost of 1, which means it's the least cost. The least path for me to walk on would be in a walkable path. What about if I made another path, like something that takes more, it would take more effort? For example, something like mud path. Maybe a mud path is going to have, as an example, a cost of 3. So it means it's heavier to walk on an area that I have to, if there's mud. And I'm not going to choose that area if I have a walkable area that's available to me. That's how the AI works, okay? So the higher the number I put in, if I made mud 3, chances are if I have the option to walk there, unless I really have to, I won't. And I can use that for different things like speed, how fast I walk or run in that area. And you can set this all up with script. So if I'm in an area that's mud, then I can walk slower. All right, and you can set up all these areas by using different meshes. Okay, let's go back. Bake. I want to bake my mesh. Before I can actually use my navigation at all, I got to bake my mesh on, right? Notice how I have other things here. Like, for example, my agent radius, which is kind of like my skin, right? The skin around my agent, right? My agent height. And this is useful if I have a ceiling, a roof that I have to go underneath. If my roof height, as an example, is less than 2 meters, I won't walk there. Okay, that's what this means. Then I can set all this stuff up. My maximum slope that I will climb, right? My step height, in terms of how far up I can go every step. Other things too, we're going to talk about off-mesh links and what those are in a bit. And there's also some advanced sections here. For example, like I can add in a height mesh if I want to. For now, let's leave that off. All right, so we're ready to go, right? We've clicked on our floor. Here's our floor here, and I want to click Bake. Now, I need to save my scene because that's what it's telling me to do. And I'm going to put call this scene main, not min, main. And I'm going to put this inside my, in my assets under my scenes folder and save. Now, notice how after I did this, I have an area here that's, this area here that's not walkable. The blue, if you don't see the blue, by the way, on the bottom right, you can turn off the ability for you to see a nav mesh, right? Show or hide this nav mesh. So this blue covering that I get when I'm looking at this thing, that's the nav mesh of my scene, navigational mesh. It means that anywhere here, right, my character can walk, my AI, right? Now, in order for my AI to work, let's get back to reality here, right? And notice how I have my floor and everything else, and I'm filtering based on my mesh renderer. Here, look up here. I can kill this filter so I can see everything again, right? And I can see that I have my AI third-person controller, and he has this weird, this capsule around him, plus he's got this other thing going on. That other thing is called a nav mesh agent. So there's two pieces. The nav mesh, which is a thin covering that goes across the ground where you want the character to walk, right? And notice it completely outlined. You can't control the size of the nav mesh. It completely kind of spanned the entire size of my screen based on my plane, the mesh itself. It goes on top of the mesh. So if you want to create a road that would be separate from the mud or the terrain, as an example, you could do that. You could separate these different areas to create your mesh. Okay, but now I need a nav mesh agent, and it talks about something like this: the radius, the height, my base height, where it comes from, my speed, how fast I'm gonna steer, right? The speed of one, my angular speed, how can I turn in terms of turning, my acceleration, right? My stopping distance, if I brake or not, or if I keep going, right? Auto braking. Obstacle avoidance indicates if I have high quality, means I will be very precise on the corners. Like for example, in here where I can't walk, I can go around this obstacle, right? Very precisely. I can also go to low quality, which is more performant, right? So more efficient, but it won't be as high quality. It won't be as precise as it goes around the corner. So I might skip through the corner, as an example, when I walk, if I'm an AI. All right, pathfinding. I can auto traverse off mesh links, or I can put them on. We'll talk about what off mesh links are, and auto repath if I have to get back on the path. All right, so this is good. I need a script in order for me. This is the third part. So one part, nav mesh. Second part, nav mesh agent. Third part, I need a script. Here's the script that comes with Ethan, right? This AI character. Let's take a look at it. All right, I need to declare this public nav mesh agent, right, with some getters and setters, the basic getters and setters here. That's what these things are, right? I also need to kind of indicate the third-person controller that's attached to it. I don't have to do this. They've done this here. I definitely need to transform for the target. I need to know what my target is. Where am I going, right? I have to have a destination for my AI, right? Now, these destinations can change with script. An example of this would be, I'm patrolling, right? I'm going to go from here to there, right? As long as I'll keep going there and back. When I get to that destination, when I collide with that kind of invisible collider, that trigger collider, it can change the destination of my nav mesh agent. So that way now I'm going to patrol back the other way, right? Which will turn me around, and I'll follow the path beautifully and look beautiful for me to do that. And I can patrol back and forth across that area. However, if the distance between me and the character is a certain distance, then I can turn to face the character and I can go after him, right? Because I've seen him. I can also have a line of sight raycast. So if my character comes into my line of sight, I see him, I can change my mode from patrolling, going from one place to the other, to following or to attacking, whatever I want to do. And when I attack, I can also change my animation state using Mechanim. I can have an animation state that's attacking, and I can use that animation state when I'm close to the character. All right, I'm just telling you how it's done. Right now, this is the script that I have in here, and notice how it says in my update, if my target is not null, so it means I have a target. Then my set destination is the target's position. That's my destination. And then I can move the character.move, to the with the desired velocity to the position. That's what it's going to do. So it's going to keep moving there every frame. It's going to keep adjusting my location of the position every frame. Else, right, I'm going to stop moving because vector 0 is like effectively saying 0, 0, 0. So stop moving. If I'm already there, if I'm at the character's position, please don't move me anymore. That's what it's going to say. And what I can do is this. There's a public void. They've written a public void set target method, right? Again, this is all built into your AI character. That with the transform target coming in, right? And I can say this target, right, is equal to the target, right? Whatever the target is. So I can change my target by using the set target method. So now imagine I'm patrolling, and I can use the set target public method to change my target somewhere else. So now I'm patrolling back. I'm now moving back the other way, and I can use these methods inside my my character script, which is this AI character controller. I can use this so I can patrol back and forth. I can go back to back. I can change. I can do all kinds of stuff like this. Very, very simple. Okay, let's see how it works in reality. So I don't have every piece aligned yet. I've got my nav mesh. I've got my nav mesh agent, and I've got my AI character controller script. But I need to pass in a reference to my target. I'm going to pass in a reference to my first-person controller as my target. So I'm going to do that. Okay, be aware that this guy's going to move at me pretty darn quick, right? I won't be able to. I won't be able to get away from him, as you'll see. Watch. So if I press play, then it's going to move at me. Whoa, right? Okay, get away, get away! Don't touch me. Right? No matter where I turn, there's Ethan. Even if I fall off the edge of the world, he's going to stop. How come he stopped? Because it's non-walkable off of the stage, right? That stage that I created, there's an area around it that's non-walkable. It's black, right? He won't go off that platform, right? So kind of very kind of simple way to do things. Let's do one more test here. So he's going too fast. How do I slow him down, right? How do I slow him down? It's tough, right? But if I look at him, he's got his. He won't. I'll show you that in a second. But let's slow him down first because I can't even get there. So let's go down to the move speed multiplier. Move speed multiplier. The way this third-person character controller works is he runs according to his animation. So his animation step, his step that he's got in terms of his animation sequence, right? His run or walk or whatever it is. It's depending on how fast he is, how fast he's moving, is how fast his animation is going to go. So I can reduce this his move speed by cutting it in, let's say half. So let's go 0.5. Same thing with his animation multiplier. Move this to 0.5. Let's see if that works. And I will make it try it again. See how fast he works towards me. So now he moves a little bit slower, but now he's like slow-mo. Like I don't want slow-mo characters running after me. So that ain't it. So his animation speed is good. His jump power and everything else is here as well. Where else could it possibly be? Here's my capsule collider. It can't be there, so let's just minimize these. My rigid body's not there. And here's my steering speed. My steering speed. This is how fast he moves, right? But this also is a factor of other things. Let's move this to 0.5 and see what that does for us. So steering speed, right? And let's see now. Yes, right? So he'll walk towards me because my speed is slow enough where I'm going to go on the stairs for you to see what happens. Now, he can't go on the stairs, but he's going to try and get as close to me as possible, and he'll keep on hitting this area until, he can't get on there, right? Make sense? So these are all things that we can do. This is a very simple AI. If he touches you, you die, right? Or take points, whatever you want, right? There is no zombie AI or anything like that I have in here. I have downloaded a zombie AI, right? But that is for a topic of another day. Because I'll be honest with you, this is not, if I move him down, like let's say if I move him down here, right? He'll try to get to me. And if he gets closer, he'll stop. Now he's close enough where he's trying to get to me still. But if I move back a little bit, He'll try and continue to move towards me until he's close enough to me, even on the stairs, where he can go there. If I make an area that the stairs are available, let's try this out. So I made my nav mesh. That's bad. I baked it already, and I want to add another object. So let's go. If I go back to open this up here a little bit, and I go to imported assets, and I go to prototyping, and let's add in another prefab that's a ramp, right? So there's a ramp prefab. There it is. So there's two. There's a ramp, right, and there's stairs. Okay. Let's see if the ramp. Make sure the ramp is not floating up in space. No, it's not. It's good. So here's the ramp, and here's stairs as an example. And I haven't mentioned anything about this. One thing I should pretty much do is change to see what kind of stuff it is. Notice that it's everything, right? So I'm going to click on nothing, and I'm only going to click navigation static. That's what we're going to click on this thing. I'm going to click back to this piece here and go back to my navigation, and notice how the mesh, right, doesn't include this little ramp. What do I need to do with my mesh again? I need to clear the mesh, clear the navigation mesh, and rebake it. When I bake it, it's permanently set. When I add new materials, it doesn't automatically rewrap around them. I gotta rebake it again. So I'm gonna say this material here now, we're gonna make it walkable, right? This is okay to walk on here. So now he's gonna be able to go there, right? Let's bake it now, right? So click on here and bake. And now you notice there's a bit of a walkable area, and there's some areas here that are not walkable. Notice if I want to, if I scroll in, can I, and this is the question I got as well, can I physically modify this mesh? Can I go through here? Is it something that I can go and click and move? The answer is no. The way to do that is if you go to bake, and again, there's the agent radius and my agent height and so on, and there's some advanced settings here as well in terms of minimum region area and all that kind of stuff. It won't bake in an area that's less than that. There's also, I can look at areas, and I can design different areas like mud or whatever. And if we want to, we can make it so that this area here is mud. It's not walkable, right? Not walkable is a kind of a built-in, right? It's just an area that is not desirable, right? Like a ramp. So we can change that about our area. So let's go back up, and we'll go back to our navigation mesh, and we'll clear it. And we'll click this area here, and we'll choose our object, which we're choosing, right? Right now it's walkable. We can change this to mud, right? So it's the walkable area has a different factor. It's not the same factor as the other one, right? Let's see how it paints it this time. So here like this, go to bake, and click on bake. Notice how it makes it, but there's a different color, right? To this area because there's a different cost to it. Now let's play the game and see what happens. So play. Now I want to go on the ramp, and does he come after me? Yes, he does. And he doesn't know what to do, so he's like flying. He's like, whoa, because we haven't baked in what we do with mud, right? He's here with me. It's almost like he's jumping, right? Because he doesn't know what to do. The animation doesn't know what to do with this area, so it's going to do whatever it can, and he's actually stuck there now. I've stuck him there, right? He can't do anything because he doesn't know what to do, right? Because we mentioned it as mud, and there is no definition for mud in script and on the and in the animation sequence, right? Now, if I was to make this jump, so let's undo this one more time. So I clear this up, and I change this area from mud to jump, which is defined, right? Let's see if he's got a definition for jump in there. I go here and bake my animation mesh. Again, I say different color. I play this area here, and I walk right up here, and let's see what he does. Does he do that funny thing again? He does. Yeah, yeah, baby. He's not going to be able to do anything there, and he can't chase me down because he's like caught in the matrix. He's caught, right? Again, if I make this area from jump to walkable, right? Notice it doesn't change color because I got to rebake the nav mesh, right? So I got to clear this off, put it down here again, and rebake it. And notice now it's blue, or this green area, because blue and yellow makes green. So if I go to here and I climb up it now, he's going to be able to climb up there because it's a walkable area. Oh, what happened to him? How come he's going up there? It's a ramp, and it's a certain angle, more than 45 degrees probably, that's causing him to have a problem. So either way, Nathan's having issues with this one, or Ethan, right? He's able to go there, but we have problems. All right. How long have we gone so far? We've gone pretty long. The reason why I'm mentioning it is because I want to take a short break, and when we come back, 5 minutes, let's go do a washing break or whatever. When we come back, I'm going to show you how to do that with our own items. We're going to do it with a block, and it's going to follow us around. And we're going to use some other ways of doing it. Okay. So let's just stop recording for now, and we'll come back in 5.